Hey!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to episode 3 of the Demonetized podcast.
Welcome back, Riker.
You'll notice that some of the outfits are completely identical, and that is because we recorded this one right after episode 2, just so we have some stuff in the queue. Welcome back. Fresh from Infinity Wars is Riker Roberts. Hi, Riker. How you doing?
How's it going?
Good. All right, and then jumping over to the other cam, we got Alex Sipes on the ones and twos, as usual.
What up?
And
Whoa!
And Colin Fleming in full Casey Neistat spec.
What's up?
Oh
ladies,
shit!
Ladies, guys, men.
Hey, you guys might need to scoot in a little bit. You're
maybe
off camera
okay.
now.
Oh, okay.
Or
Right.
Sipes scoot over a little bit more. And then, yep, there you go. So you're good. And
Away
now Colin
from
scoot like a little more.
The boss man.
How's
That'll be
Okay,
good. Yeah,
alright.
for sure.
Colin's my boss.
Do I look like him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hell yeah.
Good.
Cool.
So we spent a lot of the last episode. I think I had a really good discussion kind of on art and culture and kind of that first to the find and that whole kind of concept. So we decided that we were going to start with the complete opposite of that. And we were going to start by talking about Ford shutting down all of their sedans going forward.
Yeah.
So we
Can
talked
you
about that.
explain that a little bit? Like
Yeah.
why?
They're just doing like.
Well, they just weren't
Right.
doing it.
So they announced this like yesterday. Is that going forward? I think past like the 2019 or 2020, they're no longer like the Focus and the Mustang are going to be the only cars that they make.
I thought the Focus.
They're getting rid of the Fiesta after this. Actually, no, they are getting rid of the Focus.
It's the Focus, Fiesta,
because
and
they're,
Fusion line.
They're making the Focus into a. Have you seen the Subaru Crosstrek? Like it's like a lifted Impreza.
Yeah.
They're doing that with the Focus. It's the only way you'll be able to buy it.
That's
So
weird.
going forward,
Why?
the Mustang is going to be the only car that Ford sells. And
That's
the rest
good-
of
that's
it's going to
good
be
news for the rest of
small
us.
SUVs and
So,
crossovers and stuff.
Does that
That's
mean?
weird.
Are they still making the Fusion?
No, not starting at that point. They're
Is
letting
there
the Fusion
any
ride
reason
out.
why I should be taking really good care of my Fusion? Like, will there be resale value due to the fact that they're not making it anymore, or no?
Most likely no more than like a normal car would be.
Right.
But basically, they've seen that the numbers of people. So in general, like the car market, people are buying a lot more crossovers and SUVs than like ever before, right? And definitely more than cars and stuff. With a lot of that being like women, and then women in general highlight height, like ride height, as being part of safety. So like
I don't blame 'em.
height and visibility
anyone.
are like the
Yeah.
top two
That
like
makes
desirable
sense.
traits for women, but then like more and more people too are like just wanting a tall car for some reason.
Well, Ford also said, like, was it close to 90% of their sales have to do with trucks?
Well, yeah,
Like
so
trucks and SUVs?
so like the F-150 is a like Fortune 100 company by itself.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just the amount of revenue it brings
like
in?
just the F-150 is I think more than the rest of all their other cars combined.
Why?
Okay.
Well,
I feel like I drove the F-150 at work. I feel like that car sucks.
Why?
The truck sucks. I don't know. It just feels real shitty.
It ain't a
Well,
Raptor.
I
Also-
had a 98. It was not a great
so we
car.
have like work spec trucks, right? Like they're meant to be, but like have you been in like a new like loaded F-150?
No, I've been
So
in that
basically,
one. That's it.
like new loaded trucks are the like Cadillac of like olden days. Like if people were buying like a full size luxury car, people are just buying like luxury trucks now.
Huh.
And there was like another article on Jalopnik that went out talking about like 84-month loans becoming like a normal thing because all these trucks are so expensive that people like need to finance them for that long.
I don't think you need it if you need to finance it for that long.
Well, like,
I mean, you'd think.
like a well-equipped F-150 is going to run you north of 50 grand.
Yeah,
it
try
didn't
closer
used
to
to be.
75.
Really?
Yeah.
What the?
No,
like,
like-
just an F-150, like a Ford F-150, not
How
even like the
fuck
Lincoln.
would you get that?
Yeah. So like,
Because I know like they made the Lincoln version.
the Blackwood.
You must
Yeah,
want to tend the
and
hell
it's-
out of your ranch at that price.
Well,
with that
the
truck.
Lincoln is just an F-150 that's all.
That's like so.
So,
Like, what up with that?
Ooh, look at that truck.
so the screen cap. So they start at 27, but that's like the freaking stripper one. So
What's like what? Why are people buying trucks like in cities? Like what are they using them for?
Well,
James, what you doing?
No, so that's the thing, right? Is like we think about buying an F-150. Yeah, a limited starts at 60 grand.
What?
Fucking
For an F-150. That's not even people running like the diesel.
Well, what's the limited versus
Okay,
what's
what
above
fucking person is like, hey, I got 60 grand to blow, that's what I'm gonna get?
Yeah, that's
No,
like
okay.
Audi, BMW territory.
So you got to think about this, right? Like, so like you lived in California before this, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and you were in Ahwatukee-ish,
Yeah.
right? Like all that.
I live
You-
in like small town.
Right.
So, like, people can justify
So you
it
got to
there.
think that like here, like I'm trying to get a smaller car because parking the Vic anywhere we go sucks ass. But like where I grew up, that is a totally reasonable car.
Oh yeah,
That's
true.
yeah.
And you got to think too, like where I grew up, if you had a family of 4, those have awesome like legroom and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you own a house and you're doing like home build
Yeah,
it
that's
projects, the bed is helpful. A lot of people own boats or campers, so they towed it with that.
Right.
And
So
so-
what I'm getting is that the people who are buying this car, this is not their only car. Like they have something else.
No,
that
dude,
is-
I'm
Or are you
literally
saying
telling
this
you, I
is-
went to school where that was the dad's daily driver from suburbs to like downtown
Yeah.
every day.
The thing
driving
is
to,
like
Utah and shit.
the thing is like when you're using because like when my family had our F-150, it's like we used it as a truck, like we hauled shit and we didn't care about keeping it pretty. Whereas like we had a next door neighbor that would constantly ask us. He bought a brand new truck, way newer than ours, and he kept constantly, if he needed to haul gravel or something, they'd ask us, "Can I borrow your truck?" And it was because he didn't want to get it all dinged up and dirty and shit. And I'm like, if you spend 60 grand, like realistically more like you said, like 75 grand on a truck, how badly are you gonna want to like dump a half a ton of gravel in it?
Well, I mean that's part of the thing, but like you look at the interiors on these, like they are nice. Like
Yeah,
if
it's
you've
pretty
been
nice.
in like a new like spec'd one,
But the interiors of that are nice, but the interiors of another car that you buy for $60,000 are probably going to be
really
pretty
fucking
nice too, right?
That's like
no, but that's
Audi
the thing,
A6.
right? Is like,
But that's what people want. now,
but
huh?
capability wise, like you can't. To a certain degree, you couldn't fault someone for having that, right? If you
I
have a
could.
family of 4 or 5, and like you
I'd fault
also have like a cabin and you need to like haul stuff or like stuff like that.
Why not spend like 50 grand on like a different nice car and then spend like 20 grand on
then
like
spend
a
like 5
slightly
grand on a
less
shitty
nice
truck.
truck.
Because you got
So you're looking at shirts, too.
Because you got to think owning multiple cars for like that kind of thing, kind of sucks. Like unless you have a bunch of space for it, you know, like to
Right,
have to do
oh,
maintenance
yeah.
and insurance. It doesn't matter if it only costs you another, $50 a month to have an old beat up Tacoma. You got to do maintenance on it. If it sits for too
Yeah, that's
long,
true.
then you're like, well, we have this truck for work stuff, but like.
You gotta park it and
Eh.
then you gotta use it enough to justify keeping it in the first place.
Right, or if you have a family of 4 and you put like a little bed, like one of the covers on these or whatever, like you're like, well, we use it enough to justify it, and then we're pulling stuff, and then people just like trucks because now it's big. They feel safe if they get hit.
And these trucks look good now. They used to like lack any sort of
Now,
design.
if you go up to the fucking
What do we have here?
oh hell yeah,
Oh, the Econo van
the
or
transit
whatever.
passenger wagon.
So these-
teleportation.
these-
Oh, you're talking like the 350s.
oh, this is a 250. This
Okay.
is the Super Duty, but this is where I do not understand.
What
Yeah,
the
so-
fuck?
Okay, so
450.
Well, okay, so
Hold
let's
on.
say 250 limited, which is like what someone could reasonably be like buying.
Why don't you get
Like
That's like what a
you would
crew
still
chief
you
for
would
a
still
fire
see
department
those
drives, like.
around. You'd still see these around like the city. An F-250 limited is $80,000. So that's why I literally had like growing up, like
What the hell?
part of this is what I'd never understood, like midlife crisis cars, you know. So like I had a guy who like went to the church that I like grew up at, and he like finally bought like a Vet. Like it was like a brand new 2014 like red Corvette, and he was like psyched, like 50-year-old dude, and everyone gave him shit about that. Like, oh, like he's got money now, like ooh, like he get promoted, like ooh. In the meantime, they're driving around like a $70,000 truck, and you're like, that's the same price as his Vet. Now you
right.
could argue one is way more practical than the other, But it's like, well, midlife crisis is just when you like happen to have
Right.
money to like blow on.
Yeah, and just
Superfluous
depending on
sports
lifestyle,
cars.
like
Right.
practicality for it may not be as applicable.
Right.
Like if it's him and his wife, or it's him and his wife and maybe one, maybe two kids. Like if you're using that to get groceries,
Or-
like that's not that impractical.
Or he's doing you have a vet and then like a whatever other car.
Yeah.
And like, it's okay. You
daily
know?
driver. Yeah.
But,
and if you-
but Ford is selling so much of these that they had to come out with 84-month financing because people are buying these.
What does that come out to? What's your monthly payment? Because that's still an expensive
If
ass
you press
car.
configure, I'm sure it'll show you what your monthly payment
Oh,
was.
yeah.
It did on the other one.
What is that, like
So it's
6
like-
years?
Holy fucking shit!
So just for everyone listening to only the audio, we're looking at a 2018 F-250 Limited Super Duty pickup, and it's saying $81,000 for this price. And so they're saying
$1,100 a month.
they're saying
$8,000 down
so
payment.
no, but
Yeah.
so this
It's
is
almost
saying
like rent.
no, but okay, let's
That
go.
is my rent.
You know these,
That's my rent.
You know these people aren't putting $8,000 down because these are like finance it.
They got a truck
you want
now,
to
bitch.
more than.
Wait, so
no,
that's-
because we're like smart, right?
Yeah.
These people, they're like
Holy
1%. You can put
shit.
1%
Oh
down.
Jesus.
Holy shit!
Yeah, because how long do you even plan on keeping that thing?
That's so
Like, not
fucking
80
expensive.
$1,200 for 84 months.
And that's
My car right now, which obviously is not
whoa. Wait, hold
as
on.
practical for a family of 4 or 5, but I pay like $300 a month.
That's
Yeah.
7 years.
That's
of
that's like a
financing.
normal price to pay, but like that's like fucking. If you're putting down an $1,000 down payment and you think that it's gonna work out to pay $1,200 a month after that, then what has happened?
That
44
price
months,
is
that's
4
7
times what I pay.
No, seriously, what has happened if these are the two measurements that are happening in your life?
Well, okay,
there
but
are
you
some
could-
screws loose.
No, but this is where like 2008 hit.
yeah.
And you
Right.
like, cause like I went to private school, right?
Right.
And like my like private school was like $8,000 a year, like tuition.
Right.
So it already put you in like a certain spec of people, right? And it was either parents like willing to like make a sacrifice, or like people were just like good, or like thought they were getting a good value out of it. But that's where like when 2008 hit, you like saw pretty quick who was like actually okay and actually had money versus people who were like fully like financing their stuff.
Right.
Like a girl I went out with in high school, her dad drove like a pretty much loaded like Dodge. It wasn't like a Super Duty, but like a Dodge pickup.
Yeah.
And then the other family vehicle, the mom drove like a Tahoe. And then the girls had like another beater car that they shared for like their like first car. And I remember her getting like a text that was like, "Hey, like we are $50,000 in credit card debt right now."
Like suddenly?
No, he
Oh.
like the dad like snapped
Ooh.
and was like, "Hey, like just like you guys need to know that like we cannot compete, and like we are not like just because you hang out with people that like make a ton of money, like we cannot compete." And they were like, "Yeah, it was like 40 or 50 grand in like credit card debt, fully
That's
just
crazy.
like financed life."
No, that's a lot of, because my dad prior to 2008, he's a teacher now or whatever, which is what he really likes doing. But prior to that, he did a lot of interior design. Like that's his other thing that he does on the
that's really
side
cool.
now. But that was like his sole job before 2008. Which clearly interior decorating is not at the top tier of criteria whenever shit's getting really bad.
yeah.
So before 2008, like interior decorating, everyone was doing it. He was making like $150,000 a year, whatever, doing that. 2008 hit, and it was like
Oh, he felt it
Crazy.
because everyone cut
because
that.
everybody wasn't doing that anymore.
Because who needs an interior designer for a bathroom remodel when,
When-
you're like, we need to like eat and
Exactly.
make the mortgage, you know, like
So like the same way that I'm sure Ford or those other places that were getting people that were buying cars probably felt a very similar kind of decline in, oh, we got to cut out the things that are not essential, as opposed to, which is actually interesting because the film and like not films in general, but theaters or whatever during that time actually saw an increase because it was a cheaper way of finding an escape from the actual real life of same
sadness.
with yeah, exactly.
Meanwhile,
Same
like cruises went down or something like that. Like cheaper forms of entertainment.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
went
Cheaper
up.
forms
And I think like video game console sales, I think were also like doing totally fine during that because it was like
An escape,
$400
a cheaper
now
escape
for
than-
escapism.
Yeah.
Versus that.
It's actually funny because Zoolander, the first Zoolander when it came out,
Yeah.
was doing really bad in the box office. Then 9/11 happened, and they saw their price. Like they saw people going to see that film skyrocket because
For
of
people-
escapism for what was going on currently. You
Dude,
can
I've
look
never
that up.
stumbled upon
I'm
this.
assuming that's
What?
true. Somebody told me that.
That's pretty crazy.
It was Todd from film school.
Oh,
Todd, if you're lying, you made me look like an idiot.
Well, okay, but
our
like
podcast.
Todd is onto some shit.
Everyone listens to.
Right, because
So
it's like
yeah.
so okay, but when Jesus Christ, even if you don't right, use your words, even if you adjust for inflation, like when my parents bought their truck in what 98, they bought a 98 F-150. Thank you. They bought a 98 F-150 at the end of 97. It was like 32 grand.
Yeah.
And it had like a tow package, and it was an extended bed, extended cab. Awesome.
Well, and to be fair, the average new car sale, or actually, it might not even be new. I think it's the average aggregate car sale right now is $34,000.
Oh, that's not too. That's like what, like an Audi A4 or something like that.
So you got to think that like at a certain point, like someone buying like a $38,000 F-150, that seems
Yeah.
like a lot, but like cars and trucks are just expensive now.
Trucks in particular have been
Trucks in particular have always been expensive,
yeah.
but
Yeah,
But, like, especially when
we
they're-
worked with dropped 40 grand on a truck.
Really?
A lot of
on
money.
the bro truck,
Bro truck.
yeah.
Oh, dude, bro trucks get expensive.
Which I want to make fun of, but I went skiing and we got stuck in a ditch and they came and saved us in their bro truck. So I can't really.
Okay. Same person.
So you can't
Same
say
person.
anything
I
bad.
can't say anything bad.
Meanwhile, Steve buying Adrian's
So I find this,
Tacoma or whatever. No.
dude. I find that like amount like staggering,
That's like
and that's not factoring in insurance.
I know
Gas.
that's like full
That's
gas
fucking
coverage.
insane.
Gas.
Diesel for your Super Duty truck. Actually, this might not even be the diesel one. This,
This was
might be the gas.
2018,
That
right?
has to be the
Should
gas.
be,
Yeah.
yeah.
So okay. So
That
how
sucks.
much? Given like the
I'm
kind
sorry,
of
this
person
is
that
the
would be
diesel.
driving
No,
that.
this is the diesel. Yeah.
Should it be a general rule that if a vehicle costs more than you make in a year, you probably shouldn't buy it?
That should be the well-known rule.
Well,
at this
okay.
point.
So if you follow the personal finance subreddit, it's like rent should be no more than 30% of your take home. I think that's
I
like
think
the.
that's pretty close to what
And
it's
they
meant
went
to be.
up in the last couple of years because it used to
Of
be
gross
like of your take home.
Right. Okay. All right.
And so they went up from before because they used to say like 20, no more than 25%, like worst case.
Okay.
They had to jack that up because housing has been steadily rising, but wages haven't.
Yeah, I've
Wages are
heard like the
stagnant.
30%, or like some people say a third, which is like pretty close to 30%.
Right. But like
33.33.
But like from
that's right.
from normal good see, and that's the thing where it's kind of weird. From normal like financial perspective, a car payment was never like rolled into that. Like that was never part of your like, okay, so you have your rent and your car payment and your groceries. So like a lot of people don't even have good rules for that. Now obviously people need to finance stuff, but it becomes a lot trickier of what people are like willing to throw in there. You know?
Well, and what their priorities are too, because like young people will spend like your 23-year-old is going to have an easier time spending like $500, $600 a month on their car payment because they like their car versus like
I would argue the opposite.
really.
I mean, what normal 23-year-old has $500 a month? That goes directly to student loans. That's not going to you having a GTI.
Well, I mean,
You
like
know?
like wanting to spend, like is willing to spend more on a cooler car. You know what I mean?
Does this
like-
get to? Is there an issue with like people under like 30 most people having just a gross misunderstanding of how personal finance should work?
Probably.
Probably.
I think partially. I think the other part is, I think prior to a specific year, I don't know what that year is, there is an issue, especially I think kind of within our personal experience with like tech companies and stuff, where there's there's a lot of people at younger ages that are in a more responsible role than people that are below them or something.
Yeah.
And there is kind of this over kind of qualification or whatever, wherever they want to appear better than they are or something because of their younger age versus other people, where they may be trying to compensate for that by having X car or whatever.
I would maybe say yes and no to that, because I think that the whole concept of like a McMansion and like 2 new cars and a boat and all that, and country club membership or whatever, I see that way more as like our grandparents, and then still some of that is our parents. But then I see in general, like us and kind of the people we hang out with in our age group, to have like a totally different set of priorities as far as that stuff goes. Like I have a lot more friends who like never want to own a house. They're like, I'm completely fine living in apartments like my entire life.
Yeah, that's true.
And
I
like,
even know some like people in their 30s that are still, they're like, nah, we're gonna rent until we're
me personally,
I mean,
I don't have any
renting
desire.
a house is its own thing,
Right,
like,
okay,
but even people like not
owning
needing to
more
live
so.
in a house, right?
Yeah.
Where to me, I mean, we talked about like our hobbies needing just a certain level of like space and like capability,
Right.
But like that's like if I wasn't into anything that needed a house, then it would like make sense to have apartments.
For me personally, ideally, because of my hobbies and because of, I actually wouldn't want to own a house or a McMansion if we're taking money off the table and whatever is available.
Yeah.
I would prefer to live in some kind of, say, like 3-bedroom high-rise or something with a separate area that is a workshop or is something for a release for those hobbies or whatever.
You talking about like a shared area or like part of your?
Either.
You just
It
a
depending
shared
on-
area in a building would be really cool.
Right, depending on what the money is you're making. Like if you have enough where you're able to afford your own shop somewhere nearby that is just yours.
Let's see. Then I feel like because that's like, I don't know. That's how Casey Neistat does it, right? Like he has his like whatever penthouse
Like
or
Adam
apartment,
Savage has
and
his
then
cave,
right. But Adam Savage also has like a house, like a big house.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Where like,
Well, big by like SF standards, but like
I mean, they live in the Mission.
yeah.
Like they have a pretty big Mission house.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be bigger than Neistat's apartment.
But like I suppose, but then I feel like the like kind of whatever apartment and then like separate workspace, you get back into that like owning 2 crappy cars.
Oh,
Yeah. It's like then you have like 2 leases and like
Right.
Yeah,
you come
but
home
if I
from
enjoyed
something
them
and you
more-
need to like it. Can you imagine like getting home from work and then it's another 20 minutes down to the workshop?
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like that's kind of the like home gym kind of thing where
Yeah.
it's like I'll work out if it's right there.
But I mean, taking that into account, I live somewhere that I have my gym right next door.
Yeah.
That doesn't change anything as far as motivation for me to go to that gym.
Do you ever go?
Oh yeah.
Do you actually?
I went the other day. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know if I would still.
think
I would
it's
find some other excuse
No,
to not
Oh,
go.
if
but
I had a
that's
gym right
a
next to me,
majority
I
of the
would go
time. No,
every day.
it's the amount of time, because I've had it both ways. I've had it where I've had an apartment and a gym membership,
Yeah.
and I've had an apartment without a gym membership with a gym like right next door. My motivation for going to that gym that's
convenience.
exterior versus close by doesn't seem to have much of a difference. If I want to go to the gym, I will go to the gym whether it's 5 minutes away or a 30-second walk away or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it really comes down to self-motivation as far as if your shop is in your garage that's below where you sleep, or if your shop is a 5-minute drive from where you are. I could be wrong, but from my experience with those types of things.
I mean, logistically, it gets a little bit trickier, right? Because you think about, like in my case, if it was like, if I lived in an apartment with no garage or whatever, but had a separate workspace, to go work on the bike then becomes this like, you take the bike over there, and then you're working on it, and you kind of have to be done.
You have to have
to
it
go
drivable
back,
to
or
get
you're
back.
gonna Uber back, and like it's that kind
Right.
of stuff, or like materials. You think about that. It's
Yeah.
like, oh shit, that was back at that place.
Like with my
You know?
music stuff, like having it right there is nice. But well, I guess music is completely different because you wouldn't have to like finish something to a point where you'd be able to ride it back. You know what I mean? Like your
Well,
motorcycle.
but then even throw in like stuff like, do you want your music studio to not be near your kitchen if you're gonna cook for the people who are recording, and
Yeah.
like that kind of stuff.
Well,
you
for-
need to buy two. It's like when people had cabins and it was like 2 sets of
Soundproof,
furniture,
Oh, yeah,
two
yeah,
sets
yeah.
of appliances, 2 energy bills, 2
Places to
every
maintain,
bills.
yeah. Well, like okay, so for me, it's like at what time of day do I like to work on stuff? And for me, I love doing music shit at night.
Yeah.
I grew up in a house where I could do music stuff and no one on the other end of the house would hear it.
Yeah.
But like living in an apartment's hard because then you're kind of subject to like your neighbors and whatnot. You have to be reasonable.
I want to live in an aircraft hangar.
Do it.
Can we
That'd
talk
be
about
cool.
that next?
You can.
What?
Wait, I have one segue that
Yeah.
I should have segued into
All right,
before.
segue in there, little
Okay,
boy.
so
Oh, you go ahead.
going back to when we were talking about the trucks and the parents texting the like whoever you were talking about, like
Yeah.
saying we're in this much debt, like X amount of debt.
Yeah.
I've always had the question of, because I know a girl whose family is just very open about like their financial struggles. Do you think that's a good parenting move to prepare you, or do you think that it's best to not tell your kids about like the financial struggles that you have? Because I had it to where my parents, I never would have known anything.
Well, no. So I think that even I think it's important for the parents to do it, but if they don't, it will rub off anyway.
I
Right,
say,
because-
yeah.
But what's the most positive way they could do it in?
No, the most positive way is to like lead by example, right? So like my
Right.
parents were a great example of we consistently lived below our means, right? So like when 2008 happened, like my dad's team got restructured and he found spots in the company for all of his people and he took the layoff. And so he did contract work for like a year, but none of our lifestyle changed at all because it was 2 fully paid off, one was like 10 years old, one was like 5 years old cars, and literally nothing changed functionally.
Right.
And so that, where a lot of people, so what that did for me was scared the shit out of me as far as credit card debt and stuff like that, seeing a bunch of friends fall apart.
Right.
But now that's worn off to me, where now I could go finance a new GTI, but instead I'm like, man, if I go get like a good but older one for like cash, then that's just another thing that in case something bad happens, I
Yeah.
don't have to think about it.
That's not
And
effective
so
anymore. Yeah.
and so I thought that was really important because on the other hand, I had a lot of friends whose parents did like spend a ton, but then were like, don't be in debt.
Right.
And then,
so then
but
there's this
everyone,
cognitive dissonance that
but then
they're
everyone's like, you're definitely paying the minimums on your credit cards, like
Yeah.
every month,
Yeah.
I wonder
I-
like what age it becomes like the thing at though, because like the family I know, like all the siblings seem to just be super stressed out like all the time because they knew that like their parents they would share too much almost to where they'd be like, hey, like these things are happening, but they didn't have to say any of that. You could just be like, okay, these like you could set out the good positive things to do, but don't lay on.
No, I think it's really important because you're hoping that your friends then were able to see the writing on the wall and maybe prep for the future better. Because
But if they weren't able
nothing
to,
is
then-
worse than if your parents had it like fully tight that everything was good even though it was all bad, then you're graduating from high school and they're like, oh, there's definitely no money for you to go to college.
Right.
Right.
Where if like you kind of knew that, then like
You could
maybe
prep.
you got a job at 15 like when you could,
Yeah.
and like tried,
What I'll say about, I mean, in reference to like your initial question or whatever, I think it depends on the person. Because obviously kids they are younger and they are developing people, but they are their own individual person
Right.
at their core. So, like, take my family, for example, or whatever, going through the 2008 stuff with my dad going from making $150,000 a year to making basically nothing and having to find another way of making some kind of income. They had to sell their house and move into an apartment. And I know, looking back, that because I've had conversations with them for like months on end. They were trying to find ways to break it to myself and to my siblings that we had to leave our house and go somewhere else.
Can you
with all my
imagine?
friends.
Can you imagine like the pride hit that must be?
Totally.
As like a set of providers of like,
Yeah.
Especially
But-
having gotten used to a certain level of income.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
looking back and talking to my parents about it since, during that time, I didn't care where we lived. Like they told me, they sat me down, and I was really scared because they sat me down. They were like, "We have to have a serious talk," and I was like, "Oh shit, what did I do?" And they sat me down, and they were like, "We have to move out of our house, and we have to move into an apartment." And I was like, "Okay."
Because
Yeah.
you
Like,
lacked the context of like what that, why.
Well, not even
Now,
necessarily.
did you-
I just
oh,
didn't.
Did you have to
I
like
didn't
move
care.
schools or anything?
No, I was homeschooled at the time.
Okay.
But
I was homeschooled.
Because
but
I've seen,
we
because I saw that happen
yeah.
too, where it was like
Where you had to
kids,
leave
kids
that
like moved
area.
districts,
Yeah.
like they moved out to the sticks because it was like we
Yeah.
are broke, you know.
Oh fuck yeah.
But they were mostly worried because I had a lot of friends in our neighborhood or whatever. But we moved across town, and I was like, I can still get on my bike and go see him. Like that, cool. I don't care. That's fine.
Yeah.
Like
As a
whatever
kid,
we
you
gotta
really
do,
didn't.
that's cool. I play a lot of video games as long as you give me a bedroom that has a TV in it.
Yeah.
I don't care where we are.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I think the per kid is like a really important thing too,
Yeah.
because like I know for me, like I've gone now to a certain degree like too far, where like I was like debating like, is it selfish of me to like get a nicer, newer, fast, fun car compared to getting something super practical? And now like
I mean, I think that's like the happiness,
But like-
happiness
but like
over
what happened-
value graph or whatever.
But
mentally
like what
that
happened
you
is
make.
like my dad has like never really cared about cars, but like drove kind of beaters forever.
Yeah.
And here's like Big Ron making like north of 200K, driving a like 2000 Mazda minivan in like 2015, you know? Because he just
Yeah.
doesn't care. And so when both of his parents died, there was a thing, I remember being in the car with him, and it was like, I was like, hey, Dad, like, the fact that you guys are like financially stable is super dope, but like at a certain point, you need to spend money on living life, because I don't care if my inheritance is fat if you guys didn't enjoy your time.
Right.
Like,
And
you
so
just gotta
like
stash all your money.
so within
away
6
versus-
months, they bought their Volkswagen convertible, and it's been their favorite thing ever.
Was that the EOS?
Yeah, the EOS.
The really badass EOS that they.
It's and so their EOS is like totally. It's still weird, but it's like a good car, and they love it. And so then it was really kind of funny how life works like that. Like then talking to my dad, he's like, he's like, you're doing really good, and he's like, cars are your main hobby. Like get something that you enjoy. Like
Right.
don't go get a normal Civic if you can afford a GTI and not hurt, and you're still saving and still like hitting everything okay.
So
he's
you
like,
both had the same conversation. In
Yes.
reverse. That's pretty funny.
yeah, and so I think there's that balance too, where
Right,
it's
yeah, no, I think about that all the time. It's just like you can't just like not spend money at all because there's no like, you got to think about like the quality of life. Like there is a time to spend no money, but you have to spend, not have to, but like it's very in your best interest to spend things that make you happy and you know that it will.
But I think, but it's that balance of
Right,
you
like,
know,
of
not
course.
not needing to go out every single day, you know,
Yeah.
and like when people want to
Yeah.
go out for dinner, like sometimes it's you just getting a water or getting a beer, you know, and like just not being stupid about stuff.
Right.
And obviously, it's easy for us to talk because none of us monthly
No,
are
yeah.
like skimping, you know.
Yeah. We're lucky, everyone.
But we're also not like blowing our money at bars. Like we're not
Yeah.
those people.
Yeah, we live in kind of that weird medium that I feel like not a lot of people live in, which is kind of like, it's not like we're required to not spend money on stuff. Like we have enough money that if we wanted to go out and blow it on stuff all the time, we could.
Yeah.
But at the
wouldn't be
same
good.
time, we don't live the kind of lifestyle where everyone around us expects us to be at X bar every weekend,
Right.
blowing all our money on bottles of whatever.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
We can be
We
frugal
don't fuck your
gearheads.
money at all.
Well, no, but I mean,
Yeah.
but that's that thing where we've
Yeah,
talked
to an
about.
extent, sure.
We've talked about in every podcast, really like high value items. You know, like even like a GTI, like a GTI for 25 grand for a new car. That's like a ton of car for the money.
Yeah, it
you
really
know.
is.
And you
It's
like
just-
we talked about like fountain pens, right?
Yeah.
Me and you had none of us pulled out the ones that you get just cause. You know,
Right.
it was always like, these are like great values. Like me and Reich wearing like the Seikos, you know, it's like they're not the fanciest things in the world, but like for $200, like
They're
dope watch, you know?
And you'll love it.
And so I think that's in every single hobby we've talked about, whether it was cameras and stuff, it's buying those like high quality, like value items makes it silly. But then when you see a bunch of people like literally like going clubbing 2 nights every weekend, and you know that they spent $100 a night easy,
Yeah, that's fucking.
where it's that kind of balance like that, you know?
I had like a $64 bar tab one time because I was like bought someone drinks for their birthday or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm never doing that again.
I know, it hurts
completely
so much.
recategorizing my money into vinyl or anything besides that.
But then knowing where sometimes, you know, that restaurant where it's $60 a person
Right.
is completely worth it.
Totally.
And well worth the experience. And
like the time we went to Roost Chris, totally
Right.
worth it.
I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't spend like any money.
Right.
Or like a
But you
trip
would've
that you
spent,
go
like-
on.
Right.
Yeah.
trips, travels, a
Dude,
lot
traveling,
of that too.
like if there's a single thing that I think I've gotten like the most for my money out of, it's traveling. Like every amount of money I've spent on traveling has been worth it. With that being said, though, like spending money on gear, like I can't. Every time I spend like, I don't know, I spend like $200 on something like a microphone or something like that, and I'll be like, oh fuck, this really hurts. But then I think about like what was the opportunity cost? Like you said, like 2 nights out. Like
Yeah.
I would not want 2 nights out. I would rather have like
Yeah.
a synthesizer.
And you
know what I
never
mean?
regret it, you know? Like this
So well, because I use it and I like.
But it was like that tweet I had the other day where it was like, I now, when I'm seeing people on social media stuff, it's like they talk about like, oh, treat yourself. And it's like those people that are doing that, I can guarantee you don't have any sort of long-term savings plan.
Right.
You know,
Like how often
where
are you
like
treating
all
yourself?
of my paychecks get divvied up so that like at the end of the month, I only have like a couple $100 that's just in my like blow it on something cool money. You know?
Yeah.
And so to me, there's that asterisk of like, once all the bills are covered, there's at least some money in savings, like you're making an effort towards it. Then like, if you want to get 1 or 2 cool things a month, like whatever, like
Go to massdrop.com.
yeah. Or if that's like, hey, like I'm, you know, every time someone asks if I want to go out, like I can do that this month, you know.
Right,
Yeah.
But like, it's that kind of thing where I can asterisk pretty much anything, whether it's like an expensive car payment or someone paying maybe more money than they should on rent. Is like, is money going into savings and are all the bases covered? Are you not going into debt every month for something like that?
Right.
Then you're good, you know?
Right.
So, and I don't know if there's any other real world examples of this, but taking travel into account or something, there's a ruling, I forget where I heard it, but as far as like video games go, somebody had made the rule of basically a video game should be worth $1 an hour or whatever. So if you're spending $60 on a video game, you should get 60 hours worth of entertainment
What's
or
your
value.
What's your
out of
highest
that.
value game?
Highest value game?
Yeah, so like I think I could check my Steam stats, but I have
Oh, based off
100.
how long?
I have 145 hours into Just Cause 2, which I got for $12
I've
on the
always
Steam
wanted-
sale.
that's pretty-
You're gonna need to talk to this guy. This
Well, so
guy
then I
spends
got-
the most amount of time on video games.
So like Minecraft, I spent $3 on because I was a really early adopter of it.
Right.
And I've
There you
played
go.
like 1,000 hours of Minecraft or some
I
shit
paid
since I
a
was like
total
15
of
or
$60
whatever.
on Minecraft because I had an account and I lost all my information and couldn't get it back.
God
so I
bless.
bought it again.
No.
I don't know. For me, my ultimate
Skyrim.
game, yeah, it's probably Skyrim because I now have. Well, I played it once and I spent. Oh, what? Oh, did I have 500 hours?
Fuck my ass.
Oh, I had 500 hours in Skyrim.
Yeah. Where was that?
And then I bought it on my Switch, and now I have 100 hours.
But like,
How many? That's 20 days.
But it's like I've never.
But like Skyrim's a
20
lot.
days.
GTA, like Grand Theft
Yeah.
Auto 5
Yeah,
was
get your
another one
money's
for
worth
me
out
that
of
was
that.
just like
So
that.
for
What any of
me,
the sandbox games?
one of the values that I've seen as of recent was for PS4 was Fortnite.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the game is free.
Yeah, it's free.
I spent $10 on like the every level you rank up, you get additional shit or something like. It's all
Yeah.
cosmetic stuff, like nothing important.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I've spent probably a total of $10 playing well over 10 hours of that game. Like,
Right, totally.
I'm probably closer to 100 now.
Those free to play
The
games
free
are
to
so
play,
dope.
and I would almost categorize the free to plays in like kind of a different way, because normally you're not getting the same like studio quality level.
Well, see, that's the
You know?
interesting
I don't- I
thing.
feel
Is
like
because
multiplayer
it depends
play,
on
like-
what you're playing. Like a lot of like if you're taking a lot of kind of the traditional free to play games, I would
Yeah.
totally agree.
Yeah.
Games like Fortnite seem very different because playing that, I can go back and forth between that and God of War. Like
Yeah.
pretty seamlessly as far as entertainment value goes.
Yeah.
As far as quality of graphics go, obviously there's a massive difference. God of War is a AAA title that was like
Right. Fuck.
their
But-
lighting engine was
Fuck's big-
ridiculous,
big time.
but
But to me, it's I don't know. Maybe it's not like a categorical thing, but I see like you think about GTA or Skyrim, you can play the games in different ways.
Right.
Like GTA is like, do you want to go bust through some story missions or like online missions? Or do you just want to drive around for half an hour until someone
Totally.
comes and picks you up? Same thing with
GTA is the
Skyrim.
best game.
Is like, are you trying to go do a quest line, or are you just trying to like sort shit in your house again? You know?
Oh, that's my shit.
Right.
Skyrim. I'll just build my house.
Just RPG all day.
I will I don't know what the hell. I used to play when I was like in high school. I used to play Twilight Princess, the Zelda game,
Ooh.
and I did every single quest. And I would run around. I ran around for about 30 hours, just running around, giving myself fake things to do. I'm surprised I didn't become a freaking serial killer. I would just be like, oh no, I gotta go over here, and so, like I did not do anything, but I got the most value out of that game.
It's like in RuneScape, I didn't level anything up. I just made money. I just mined shit.
Yeah.
So I figured
And
out I could sell it, and
I think that
leveled
comes
up
down
30.
to what is the entertainment that you're getting out of it. Because entertainment
The
doesn't
most.
necessarily mean I beat this game in X number of hours.
Mm-hmm.
Like
No.
the Skyrim, for example, like you can beat the main story of Skyrim
Oh yeah, yeah,
probably like 20, 30 hours if you're like just going for it.
right.
But to get an extra 450 hours or however much you put into it is
Right.
like just all the other shit or all the other whatever you want to do. Like it's still entertainment that's being used or whatever, and
Totally.
it brings joy to you.
I've never regretted buying like a game system. Like if you think about any of your game systems, like your Xbox One or you have a PS4 and you have a Switch,
The
like
Switch.
all of those,
Do you really have all three?
I will too.
like a $300 price like for the Switch is so worth it. Even like into one game, like when I was 20 hours into like Breath of the Wild, I said the Switch was worth it. I've had like so much fun from this.
Yeah.
Like there's no way that I could think that like this $300 purchase was not worth it.
I think that's part of always been my attraction to like PC gaming.
Right.
Is because like your initial hardware cost is more,
Mm-hmm.
but like an $1,000 computer is like dope at gaming, but also great at every other thing
it's
you're
so
ever gonna
enabling.
do. You
Yeah.
know, like that's why like this is like a pretty at the time when I got it, it was like a pretty beefy laptop, and it was
Right.
like,
But
I,
also-
I was able to fully justify it because it was like, well, I can now start playing PC games again, and my video editing now will like actually work and not chug
yeah.
for school. You know.
But also, like with building your own PC, it also satisfies. If you're into PC building, like that satisfies that hobby. But then you can also.
I think PC
No?
building is a shitty hobby.
Oh, I think it's not very rewarding because
Because
once you're
it's
done,
like-
you're done.
Right.
How many times can you?
You can
But-
always get like new video cards and shit.
But if
No,
you're
but
a
you
general
don't do
computer-
that. No, that's where like I like actively follow car stuff,
Uh-huh.
but the PC stuff, I like learn like the 4 months up until I build a rig, then I build it, then I completely stop following.
So
like
that-
the
so that
big
you
that's
don't
on
get
trends
like
in
the
CC
Wonder
art.
Lost.
So you never
No,
stay
no,
up
because
to
it
date
doesn't
on 'cause
matter.
It doesn't.
Because you've already spent your
It's
1,200
not.
bucks.
It doesn't matter to you
Right.
because it
then
doesn't.
It takes another 4 years, and then you're like, all right, well, time to build another one.
Makes
This one's
sense.
getting a little.
What's out there
You're
now?
like, all right, what's the new shit now?
I think that's
that's-
most people.
yeah.
But you can still like it if you're into learning about technology. It'll like satisfy you to some extent.
Yeah,
But not. It's diminishing returns, especially.
And I guess it's way less.
like-
It's way less sexy than a car.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, like Intel's new processor came out. Isn't that cool? You're like, yeah.
Too bad I'll never get one.
And then you're like, here's a new Aston Martin. Here are the pictures of it. You're like, well, I'm never gonna be able to afford that, but that's very pretty. Like, all right,
Yeah.
nice. It sounds nice.
Yeah, I don't
Ooh.
know. Like my brother is one of the kind of people who's built his PC and continually is upgrading it, because that's just like what gets them
That's a
off.
very
right now.
expensive way to go about doing it.
No, it is,
But
like,
eventually you've replaced every part. So
the
you
ship of
just have a
Theseus.
new computer and an old computer.
But is that a thing though?
Yeah.
Like,
No, most normal
But
people
different
they'll
pieces.
build it, and a rig should last them for 4 years. Maybe they'll sell their old video card and buy a new one 2 years into it.
Right.
But even that, most people don't.
No, it's just they keep
It's
it for 4 or 5 years.
a 4 or
and then they
5
do the
year,
build.
and then that's about what it'll get you. And you're like, oh, it costs me $250 a year. Like that's
and then
pretty
their
good.
old rig becomes like a home server or something like that.
Some useless ass.
Yeah.
It becomes their
Yeah.
podcasting. Like
Yeah.
literally, our home server was like my old gaming computer, and it was like used a bunch of power and like. It worked, but it was like now I can stream all my pirated videos allegedly to our PS3 in the basement. You know,
Yeah.
You never prove it, dude.
what I will say,
32
as far
gig of
as-
RAM.
As far as technology goes, I think Nintendo, for the most part, really sucks at it. Not because they're bad at it, but because they're willing to try really new technology on stuff. And 90% of the time, it doesn't necessarily land. Like, if you
Right.
look at the Wii, for example, it was a great console. It sold pretty well, I think. As far as motion controls
It
and
sold
the
really well.
extent that they were going to take that, like, it was
Well,
a little over the top.
Have you ever looked at the sales charts on the Wii?
Was it good?
It's
or-
really interesting because it was a lot. It was a lot compared to the competitors, but then over time, the
It
competitors
was
sailed
powered
past
down.
it.
So that's
Like in
yeah.
the first like Christmas, it was like Wii versus PS3, like blew it out of the water, like
Right.
25 times the units sold.
Oh,
Yeah.
geez.
But then when everyone got their Wiis, like I know ours, my mom got one for Christmas, was like, this is dope. And then they played it for 3 months and then it
That was
sat
it.
and it became a Smash Bros. Box.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's, and I mean, looking back on the Wii or something, if I'm thinking about buying an old Nintendo console, the Wii is not the first thing that comes to mind. The GameCube is the first thing that comes to mind. Like, if I had to pick one of those two, I'd be like, no, I'll buy a GameCube. Like,
Well,
I want to
but-
play Smash Bros.
But if you're going to buy one now, the Wii can play all the GameCube stuff.
That's true.
So they've
Yeah.
kept the backwards compatibility decent.
That's one thing that they did really. I was really, really impressed that they did that in the first place, but at the same time, it's like,
Well, it's because their hardware is so fucking basic.
Well,
yeah,
Have you seen what the hardware is on a Switch?
it's
It's an NVIDIA Tegra chip. It's like an Android
Well, and the-
tablet.
and the dock
it's
is
an
just-
Android tablet graphics card.
yeah, and the
Great
dock is
processor.
just
It
like
looks
a
so
USB
good, though.
extender. It's not adding
right,
any.
because they're really good at taking their shite, outdated hardware and maximizing what they can get out of it. Where that's where you see like PS4 and stuff, like the games get progressively better as they figure out how to use it over time. Where Nintendo like is using almost the full capability when their console's like coming out.
like they think ahead so far. Like, it literally.
No, but they like also don't.
Yeah,
no,
but
historically
like,
speaking, their hardware has been like,
Always bad.
yeah, well, not
No, yeah,
Always
bad, but
two
like,
gens behind.
yeah.
What I
Nintendo
will say
is?
about that, though,
Yeah,
is because
that is true.
I think Nintendo takes usability and kind of like the future as their priority over necessarily quality of.
I'd throw the term novelty in
graphics.
there.
Sure.
I think there is a heavy amount of novelty in
But
every Nintendo console.
What I will say about that,
I
though,
love the Switch. I
is
think- Yeah, no, they're dope.
So what
Yeah.
I'm saying is, every once in a while, and I don't think that the last console necessarily hit on it, the Wii U or whatever, the Switch hit the fucking nail on the
Hell yeah,
head
it did.
as far as the most
It's the
convenient
perfect
console
console.
ever.
It's
I've talked to
the
people
shit.
about, like, I own an Xbox, I own a PlayStation, I own a Switch.
Yeah.
People have asked me, hey, you own all these consoles, what would you recommend I get? Regardless of the games that are on each console and the quality of graphics of each console, I will tell people the Switch every fucking
like,
time.
if you like Zelda, if you like Skyrim, like, say you want to play, like, there's honestly
It's
no games.
just
but,
the
like,
fact
No,
Mario
but, no,
Odyssey,
okay, but that's a big point.
those three
That's
games.
a big point. Is
Yeah.
you?
Oh, what do you want to play?
I don't know anyone with more than 5 Switch games.
I own
nah.
10.
Ooh.
Whoa, what
I
are you
think.
playing? Like, do you have like there's like the 3 heavy hitters, like Breath of the Wild, Skyrim,
And
Mario Odyssey.
And it's been a pretty consistent gripe with Nintendo that their
Yeah.
first party stuff is great, but their third party support is not great at all.
I mean,
Right.
I don't know.
Because like
But
Skyrim,
it's always been that way with
Yeah, but
Nintendo.
Skyrim is supposed to be like
but Skyrim's Skyrim is a 2 generation old
That
games
is true.
at this point. And it was like,
Oh,
yeah, we get
Bethesda,
Skyrim.
give us something new. We don't want to play SOE, please. Thanks.
Oh yeah, fuck it.
So, but I think that's
wanna do
been
it
like
the
that's been like a hard Nintendo thing is like, you know, is finding that you buy the console and then you buy the 5 games that exist for it.
Yeah.
And then what do you do? You play the shit out of them.
Well, so
But-
the interesting
Hope
thing
that something
about
better
the
comes out.
Switch necessarily, and this isn't something I think that will apply for everything, but there are a few innovations that the Switch came out with that, as far as my personal lifestyle, were absolutely revolutionary. The one hand, I could put it on the dock, play it on the console, you know, just like I could with my PS4 or my Xbox.
Right.
The other thing was, I could buy a $20 separate dock that I can put in my living room. So if I want to play in the living room or the bedroom, it's simply picking it up and moving it, as opposed to disconnecting a bunch of cables
Yeah,
and moving
that-
my whole console.
Or
just
going
well,
to
you
your
are moving
bed.
the whole console. It's
I
just-
am, but
they're
it's just
allowing
this
you to do
big.
that. Yeah.
No, but I mean that's all part of that equation and timeline of convenience versus overall experience.
Totally.
And like game quality, you know?
Yeah.
Because like you go one step further than that and you're playing phone games, which are infinitely convenient.
It's
And so like then the Switch is shifting that down a little bit. We're like, okay, well it's still really convenient, but it's real console, right?
Because
Yeah.
part of the
And then
experience is the hardware that you're using.
and then those are more convenient than building and operating a PC.
Right.
Because they have fixed, and you're not going to run into game compatibility. Like,
But-
it's 3 years after you build it, you can't play this game now, bitch. You
So
know,
that all comes down to as far as convenience versus quality, basically, as far as this goes.
which we talked about on
the-
episode 1.
It's true.
With a lot of
did.
our
But
hobbies.
the question is, has the quality versus convenience gone too far to the other extent? Where, personally for me, I'm still playing on the original Xbox One. The Xbox One S, the Xbox One X, or whatever have come out 4K quality. If I'm watching a side-by-side comparison of a 4K quality versus a 1080 quality of these two games playing, it's not going to make a fucking difference to me.
Oh, horseshit. No, because see, the problem is you need all the pieces. Like on a 4K like OLED TV running like Forza Horizon and 4K on an Xbox One X, you can definitely tell.
But
and
is it
it's
worth
dope.
it?
Because it's
Yeah,
running. No,
well,
but
tell
so
me the
that's
difference
but
and
that's a
then-
different thing, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where I think I would almost make that a pro of the Xbox and the PS4, and the fact that they have the Pro and like the One X, and that it doesn't limit you. It's not like another console. So they're
Right.
saying, yo, if you want to spend the money on a TV and the new console, it's going to be beautiful and run super well. I think they're getting like 60
Yeah.
FPS, right?
But when I think 10 years ago, am I going to remember, oh man, that 4K quality versus that 1080 quality? Like, is that going to matter?
But
How
that
convenient.
goes into the just because I can, you know? Because like you functionally, you're like someone on a 720p 10-year-old TV on an Xbox One playing GTA against the kid with the 4K setup. They're playing the same game, but like, if the kid can afford the dope setup, then like,
Right,
why
yeah.
the hell not? You know?
But at what extent, like, because taking the Switch into account, which obviously is not running 4K, it's running, whatever the fuck it's running.
I don't even think it's 1080p.
I think it is 1080.
Is it finally,
Yeah.
or is it
I think it's
720
1080.
still?
The Switch?
I don't know the actual handheld if that screen is 1080,
I think
but I
it's
think
1080. It's
On
like
TV
a
it's running
really good
1080.
LCD. That's like
Right. Yeah,
Breath
it's
of the Wild
fantastic.
Looks so good.
what I will say though, that the convenience of being able to move my console.
Okay, so it's 720.
Oh really? I would not
the screen
be able
on
to
the
tell.
Switch
Damn.
is 720.
No, you like really would.
But
It looks
and what I will
super
say
good.
based
Well,
off
because
of
they're optimizing it for that.
Yeah.
They
Right,
know.
right. Yeah.
what I will say based off somebody who has gone super in depth on TV quality and video quality from wanting to be a cinematographer and all that,
Right.
is your distance away from the screen in inclusion with the screen size will change whether or not 1080, 720, or 4K is worth it.
Yeah, it's like and you're playing it in your bed with the Switch this close. So honestly, it might as well be 4K at that
Well,
point.
also your
doesn't- yeah.
perception,
Like that- yeah.
Like I
because
can't.
it's that close.
Like there are people out there that can see, like for PC gaming, for example, like 60 hertz versus like 120 hertz people. I cannot tell the difference. I know that there is, and some
No, it's
people
a-
can, but I can't see it. You know what I mean?
It's a smoothness thing.
Yeah.
Like
I can't
you
tell
like,
though.
No, you can though.
It's like refresh rate
yeah.
too.
Have you sat like spec to spec, like
Yeah.
same computer with the two different monitors?
Yeah.
I can tell. I don't know about
Oh
you.
no,
but
I know.
like,
I'm not saying no one can. It's just like with the sound thing. You know what I mean? Like some people can tell like audio is different from one another. My visual system doesn't allow me to actually like see the difference between that. I know that there is a difference and people can. It's just I don't perceive it, so it's not something I would invest
And
in.
coming back to that, as far as like, let's say you're remembering a few years ago from now, oh, I remember that time that I got that crazy 360 no scope headshot on that guy. The quality of whether it was 60 or 120 hertz, like, is that something you're even gonna like think about whatsoever?
well, no, but I think that's kind of a flawed. I don't think that's like a real argument.
Not
It's
necessarily.
more like an
Because you could say
in-the-moment
because you
thing
could say that
rather
about
than-
anything then, right? I mean, the tech is going to progress.
Right.
So saying that we're not going to use the most current tech because people don't need it defeats the whole reason.
But if you're
You know?
considering that in as far as
Like you go to
like,
cars, right? Like at a certain point they said like no one. Well, I mean that was like the 55 mile an hour speed limit. It's like no one needs to go
Oh.
faster than 55, and it's like, well, like if a Corvette in the 80s had 200 horsepower and now they have like 450, it's like, well, I mean, we didn't need more horsepower. You're like, but it's pretty fucking cool that we
But
have
we can
it.
do it, yeah.
Right.
So like, I feel like that's kind of like, it's like, well, are you going to remember the memory? Well, yeah, but like on a day to day, like if you can, why not have the better experience like every day?
Right, but that also comes back to the convenience thing. As far as like, let's say, yeah, I can have a switch that sure it's running 720 whenever I'm using it as a handheld versus using a Xbox One X that's doing 10K on here. But if I want to take that over to my friend's house, am I gonna have to lug around like 30 pounds worth of equipment in a specialty backpack that I had to purchase?
No, well, but
versus-
that's where Nintendo and Apple run in the same circles.
Yeah.
Is they're not
Oh,
the
the ecosystem
best.
thing.
It's some of that ecosystem kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Where like Apple is significantly behind in specs every single phone that they release, and they hype up their new features as new. When like,
Right, it's like,
I
want to be in that universe though.
but like I've had touch to pay on my phone since 2011. Like in high school, we bought McDonald's with our Galaxy S3s,
Right.
and like an Apple Pay comes out, it's like, oh shit, like dope, and you're like, okay, great. But that's that trade-off is like you're always gonna have some people that are spec driven, and like it is. I mean, in most cases, those specs do lead to a better experience.
Right.
But Nintendo is going for the novelty thing, which is cool, like being able
Right.
to play it on the subway or whatever. Like, not that actually helps me at all in my life, because I mean, I think about the times that I'd be playing games. I'm kind of going to be in the same spot every time.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Like,
the one thing,
if I had a Switch, I don't know where I would bring
It's
it.
that
The one thing-
moving from your living room to your
Yeah.
bed. That's the switch.
the one thing that I
But
will
like,
say
I don't play
is
games in my living
mind-blowing.
room. I play games on my desk.
Yeah, so I mean, it wouldn't work for you,
Consider
but like,
getting
guys-
on an airplane though. If you can get on an airplane
that is true.
and you can play Skyrim on a handheld device,
The
on
same
an
game
airplane,
you were playing.
I can play
at your
Skyrim
desk.
on here. I have Skyrim on my laptop.
Yeah, but you gotta carry around a whole laptop.
I mean, I'm carrying my laptop anyway.
I mean, sure.
So why bring more hardware?
Yeah, but I think the price difference as far
Well,
as
I need a
like,
laptop for work though, and doing other shit.
I think that's
I don't
kind
need a
of.
Switch
They give
for
it
work.
to you. It's
I think
fine.
that's kind of like why do I bring
I think
like a
the gear
portable
stuff,
headphone amp and like big headphones on a plane versus like most people have earbuds. It's like it's a similar sort of thing. Like, are you really into that? Cool, like go for it. But like if you're more into the convenience side, then like
You should bring your AirPods.
Just-
in.
I
Yeah,
didn't,
no,
like,
no. I think the
phrase
Switch,
that
like
real
I
well,
think the
but-
Switch is dope. Like
Yeah.
I think it's cool, but to not understand that it's like flawed and like there's 10 games and like
No, yeah, I mean,
You know,
yeah.
oh,
like-
sure, yeah.
I wish there was
but
more
if
games.
it's like, yo, like I love fucking Mario Kart, and like I wouldn't be playing video games. I mean, that's why I've talked about like if I were to buy a real console, I'd buy an Xbox because all I kind of want to play at this point is Horizon or Forza.
Well, then do that.
Then do it, right? So that's the same thing with the Switch.
Right.
Like I thought about buying it because I want to play Zelda.
And
I don't really care that it's portable.
Fucks, yeah.
I'm Zelda fucks. Like
And
I wanna play
I'm
it.
coming from this perspective of somebody who has all 3 consoles currently.
Oh,
That's true.
got him.
Yeah, but I mean, we
So
can all own the same stuff, but use it in completely different ways, right?
Right.
No, but
Yeah.
I mean, my promotion for the Switch is not hindered by my inability to play God of War or anything. Like, I still
no, that's fair.
can do that. Like, it's not.
Well, and
so
I mean, who wins the console wars? The answer is you buy all of them. You don't give a fuck,
Exactly.
right? That's been it every
That's
single
true.
year. It's like, which one of the 3 should you buy? And it's
Really?
like, the answer is you should buy all of them so you can play all the
what it
title
comes
first party
down
games.
to
Yeah, that's-
is console wars comes down to what is the majority of your friend group playing.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
pretty
and,
much.
and here's
That's
why it doesn't
all it
matter
is.
because
Well, yeah.
the console wars only matters to 15-year-olds who only can afford one.
That's no.
Really?
I was
Like,
so deep.
Like
Yeah.
I could buy each one in like 3 months and like, all right, I fucking win.
Yeah.
Well,
You know,
like when
I
Monster
won
Hunter
the
World
console.
came out, like all my friends on the Telegram group were like, "Are you getting a PS4? You better get a PS4 so we can all play together." It was, like, it was a matter of like,
shitty ass Xbox.
well, it was a matter of like we all want to play this game together.
Right.
It wasn't I want this hardware or anything like that. It's not like putting hardware out of the picture, but it was more like, okay, at this point, it's like if you can get the game on like console A or console B, all my friends have console B. It's like, well, what matters now?
Well, I mean, that's how I ended up with, all my friends had Xboxes and stuff, and I ended up with a PS3.
Uh-huh.
And, like, I got to play Uncharted and Infamous and, like, a lot of those
Infamous,
dope,
hell yeah.
Right.
like, a lot of those, and Killzone. Like,
Right.
the number of friends who still haven't played Killzone 2, which is, like, the dopest, like, shooter ever, like,
Yeah.
to me, it was like, fuck it, I'm kind of here for, like, the games, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to
Yeah.
play Call of Duty. Like, it was like, well, we
Yeah.
play Call of Duty and FIFA and Madden. I'm like, none of those
Sounds stupid.
sound great, so
Infamous
I'm
sounds
good.
badass.
So that's,
Yeah.
that's actually, as far as Xbox is concerned, because I am a huge Xbox fanboy. I owned the first Xbox. I owned the 360. That was the only console I ever wanted to play on.
Right. That's why. That's what I felt about PlayStation.
Xbox has fallen off the map as far as its exclusivity goes.
Right.
Like,
Halo is the one.
Halo was their game, and it was a good ass game.
You had Halo and you had
Gears of War.
Gears of War.
Yeah.
And those were like cult games too. They knew they were going to be.
No, they were fantastic games. The problem is with the Xbox One, both of those have kind of fallen off a little bit.
Oh, definitely. By the time the Xbox One came out, Halo had like receded from its heydays. Like it wasn't all
Like
that
343
Halo anymore.
But
or whatever studio.
I think it's really
Yeah.
interesting though, because I feel like the Xbox One grew with the demographic more. Because like using Cody's Xbox, the Xbox is now a much easier to use and better console for
Yeah.
what I do, which is like a lot of that's YouTube, Netflix,
Yeah,
Amazon,
no, totally.
Or
and
this
some
app's really
games.
good now. I don't own any of these, by the way.
No, they're like
That's
totally
worth knowing.
decent. Where like the
Okay.
PS4, like the interface is still a little wacky.
Yeah.
Like, and
It's like how the TV is. Like if you ever owned a Sony TV.
yeah, no, yeah, I know, yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah,
the
it's
It's
like-
still
but-
bundled off like the PS3.
But the fact is, like, you
even?
can, like, it's got an HDMI in and out on the Xbox. So
Oh.
theoretically, you can run, like, your cable signal into it.
Right.
And then, like, it'll give you a schedule and DVR through your Xbox.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
So, like, how many people use that? I don't really know. But
But that's very
functionally,
useful.
and like the fact that like my Windows computers and stuff, I can cast like any video file or music from here to that Xbox, like no problem at all. And
Really?
so
Is it good with networking too? Does it like interface really well?
yeah, and so like I see it as
That's
a little
good.
bit more of like a, as I got older, the Xbox is like a console that like fits into my life a little bit better.
Right.
Where now I
Right.
see the PS3 as like a still pretty dedicated like game box,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that I think is interesting about that, because I have my Xbox One out in my living room,
Yeah.
which is connected to my smart TV. When it comes to streaming YouTube, Netflix, all that stuff, I can use the Xbox, but my TV already has all that
And
functionality.
you're just gonna use the.
So
TV.
I haven't used Netflix, YouTube, anything on my Xbox, even though it's connected to the TV, but the TV itself already had all that functionality.
It's easier on there.
Although I do say, as far as
I kind of hate smart TVs.
Do you really?
Some of them are way better than others, but most of the time, the smart part of the smart TVs is like pretty under-spec'd and can be kind of janky and slow.
That's how I felt about my first smart TV.
Yeah, the newer ones are
The
definitely
one
better.
like the Samsung 4K one that me and Pat have
Yeah,
is dope.
but like at a certain point, like I don't know about you guys, but I don't own cable and I don't plan on owning
Nope.
cable.
No, nobody
So for me to have like, oh, this one will automatically detect like what input is happening. It's like, yo, like it's going to one thing every single time I turn that TV on. You know,
That I pretty much.
if you have multiple consoles, that's I guess a little different. But it's like,
that,
but it's like
I
I don't
like
give
the
a shit if
input
that
thing.
thing's smart or not because it's either I'm sending a YouTube video to the TV or I'm turning on the only thing connected to it to play YouTube
Right.
on it.
You just want it to be a
Like,
screen that turns on and does its just displays
I mean,
stuff.
I don't
yeah.
own a TV. That one's Cody's. I play everything through monitors.
Okay.
So like most of the time, like in college and stuff, it was like my computer, and then hooked up to the second input on my monitor was my PS3.
Okay. Yeah.
Because then I can still watch YouTube on the other screen
Same.
because I can't sit and only do one thing.
See, I'm
'Cause
like,
I have,
You gotta
like,
do that all
gotta
the
have
time.
full.
I gotta keep learning
All the
That's how
channels.
all of Archer was through playing video games and having Archer on a separate.
yeah. Well, so I got my first TV like a month and a half ago. But
Congratulations.
it's a smart TV, but I don't use any of the smart features other than when I turn on. I don't have to turn the TV on. I just have to.
It's got the HDMI slave, so when it detects
Yeah.
like a signal, yeah, that's super
It
nice.
switches to that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really nice because like I made like I know I'd probably like not stop talking about it, but like I made a little emulator box.
Yeah.
Right? That's nice. I like turn that on. I turn the controller on. It turns my TV on just like it would for like an Xbox. Which
I've
is
seen
like,
that work beautifully too for people with like Chromecasts and stuff.
Yeah.
They like cast a video from their phone, it automatically fires it up
Just
and like
turns
it's
it on.
golden. It's like-
Chromecast is a fantastic.
and I've got a Google
Yeah.
Home, and I got a Roku Ultra. I'm having trouble hardware issues with the Roku Ultra. It needs to be like RMA'd, but
sounds about right. Yeah.
I like the Roku 3. My
no, the
parents have
Roku,
one of
the
those.
Roku stuff's dope. It just I've heard a lot of people now like
The
running
Ultra
into
is a
issues with
weird
it.
product. Yeah,
That's the 4K one, right?
yeah, that's the 4K one. I got a 4K TV. My parents were like really early adopters of the cord cutting thing, and so they got a big TV and they got a Roku 3 when that was the flagship product, and that's been working fine. It's been working great. But it's nice because then I can just grab the Roku remote, which has an IR emitter on the front. You can program that to interact with your TV. So you've just got the one Roku remote. The volume rocker on the side controls the TV. I can control the inputs, and by the way, I can just grab the thing and hit the home button, and it'll go right. It'll turn everything on. That's really nice. But like, I don't use the smart TV features.
I wonder if anyone saw it going like how it did.
Dude, I don't know. Even
You
like
know?
3 or 4 years ago,
It's-
when we were like, "Dude, no, like cord cutting's the way of the future," I didn't even see it like this. You know?
Well, that was a thing because we went from VHS to DVD, as far as and to Blu-ray, as far as like the evolution of.
yeah, within like 8 years, by the way.
And I remember being younger and thinking, I wonder what the next step is going to be. We are going to have machines that swap out your discs for you. That's going to
That
be
was it.
amazing. And that was my thought in my head was like, that'll be the next evolution of this whole
Like
thing.
a jukebox.
But the funny thing about technology is like, it never even like was in my brain that, oh, we don't fucking need any of that shit. We're just gonna sit down, turn on the TV, and it's gonna have fucking everything we could ever want to watch on it,
Just
on
stream.
all platforms, on one device that we don't even have to move to change out discs or anything. Like screw all that stuff.
Our podcast is on iTunes and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Sweet.
iTunes and Stitcher.
Ooh, listen to our
iTunes.
podcast. You are right now. Thanks.
What a crazy plug. iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify. Should be on Spotify.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's on there.
But like,
Um,
technology is weird that way. Like the next evolution that you can think about is probably not going to be the direction that things go in.
Right.
Mm.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like when Netflix came out with, it was like the subscription thing, and I remember my girlfriend in high school at the time. We went on. She had this dope roof that you could like. For like 8 months, I went out, or like the last month, she's like, "Oh, we can like, there's this whole balcony thing on my roof." Like, what? We'd go out there and watch movies all the time, and we would just stream them. And I was like, we don't have to. She had a Netflix subscription, but it was like the DVD mail thing, and I thought that was cool as shit. And then it was oh no, you can stream everything. I was like, well, game over. like these businesses are gonna stop existing in 3 to 4 years because of this, probably. And I'm like, no way. I was like kind of not necessarily a Luddite, but like kind of a denier. And she's like, no, dude, watch 3 or 4 years, it'll be all streaming. And sure as shit, that's what happened.
And I think like the funny thing is, because I'm very conscious of what the previous things were, it went VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, screw Laserdisc. That it's better, but whatever.
Hey, we got some over there.
You gotta flip
Oh,
your
Yeah, we got Laserdisc player.
Ooh, you
over
guys
there.
are hipster as fuck.
Do you?
Yep.
No,
Yeah.
right there. He's right.
But like the next step was streaming, which I never had thought would be the next step.
Right.
So the next question is, what is the next thing?
I don't know. Well, I don't know, but I'm also really bad at predicting technology.
Exactly.
I think there's going to be a fundamental, I think, breakdown or power struggle between the cable networks and YouTube and next gen content creators, because I think they're trying to figure out how to not lose money. Like even now, right? Like,
well, they're trying to figure out how
it's
to
really,
not become
it's
the
really
cable
expensive
industry.
to not have cable with internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the bundle is way cheaper,
And
but like I
you were
refuse,
saying,
None
of us have cable, right? So
No.
none here have
No
cable.
cable.
No.
Never
'Cause
had
what's
it.
the
I
point?
don't even own a TV, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
and so I think it's going to be a really interesting, because that's the problem now is like content creators are now trying to go on TV so they can actually make money. Mm-hmm.
But it's going the opposite way.
But it needs to,
Yeah.
because it's way better.
But so what I feared happening when I see, like, a couple years ago, it was like the Wild West of streaming, and it was kind of like the heydays, because what a lot of the streaming companies are trying to avoid is the streaming industry becoming what the cable industry was, where it was like, ads were supposed to replace having to pay for a cable subscription, but then it ended up becoming that you'd have to pay, and then like Hulu started doing this like years ago, where you pay for a Hulu subscription and then they show you ads anyway, and you're like,
now,
Oh, dude,
Hulu
that
has
was-
to that, where you
dude, that
pay
was
and
trash.
you-
yeah.
fuck Hulu.
My mom was like, she like had all these accounts, and my mom was
So
like, all right,
lame.
F Hulu. This was back in like 2012. She's like, fuck you guys. Like as soon as they started doing that,
Dude, I've never thought that like, what the hell kind of
well, Hulu used to be able to get a free account.
assing is that?
Well, you used to have a free account. You didn't pay for it, but
Yeah.
you would have to do the ads. That's cool.
Yeah. And that's what YouTube was. And YouTube
Yeah.
technically still is, but they're trying to push YouTube Red, which
Yeah.
is pay for it without the ads, which how long will that last before it's
You
pay
need to
for
pay
it
for it
and
yeah.
have the ads?
Yeah, well, and like YouTube recently started, at least I noticed, started over the past few months doing the, you sure you don't want to do YouTube Red subscription? And
Oh, they love doing that.
Oh, I hate
especially
that.
if you accidentally like hit the home button on your phone, for example, and close out of the app, and they're like, hey, wouldn't it be nice if you could listen to just the audio of this, for example, like a video podcast? Hey. Versus audio podcasts, which I've been a part of since the beginning.
Ooh, look at you.
I'm afraid of that happening with podcasts.
What?
What? They'll go full video?
No, podcast platforms costing money in order for you to even like have the app or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I don't see it happening
that
because
Podcast One tried to do that for a while, right? With their like premium podcasts and stuff.
right.
And it's interesting how the problem with the whole thing is like there is a fundamental like what do you do about it? Because people like do need to get paid,
Yeah.
Like if this was eventually like a big enough deal and it was like encroaching into our like time enough that like this had to be a thing, and like Riker's skipping going to movies because like we have to get the podcast out and stuff, like
Yeah.
or this is how we're
It's-
making a
yeah.
living. We're content creators, like.
Then it's that like that. Then it's yeah.
But people need to get
Yeah,
paid.
man.
But also the idea of paying for a podcast is like kind of bogus to me. Like it's not something that
sucks.
clicks in my head. But the Patreon thing like comes into that, right?
Patreon's awesome.
But the problem with Patreon is if I follow 50 people, if I'm subscribed to 50 people on YouTube,
yeah.
all of whom I'm only subscribed to them because I find it worth my time, good content or whatever. And all of them are like, hey, only $1 a month. It's like, well, that's like $50, And
Yeah.
like,
well, and a lot of these Patreon things are like starting. It's like $5 increments, so like $5,
well,
$10,
I mean, they'll
$15.
take whatever, but like you don't get
Yeah.
any of the perks until $5, and it's like,
Yeah, dude.
man, like, well, do you
a lot
set,
of those are rip-offs.
do you
too.
set
It's
yourself like you have a $50 a month, and you have to kind of decide how you divvy it up, you know?
But I think the other thing to take in consideration is that of the 50 people you watch, how many of them are in your top 5? Who of those? Because everybody's gonna have their top 5 or something. If you're giving to your top 5, and then of your 50, they all have that same number of people that are there in their top 5 or whatever, you can watch all 50 shows, only give to your top 5, but still everybody is essentially making money.
Yeah, I see.
So let's say you're like, okay, it costs me $5 a month. I'm paying $1 to each of these 5 people that I like. But 50,000 other people are also paying $5 to those same 5 people. Those people are good.
Yeah.
And then other people are paying the other people you watch those, same amount of money. Those people are good too. You get to watch all of it, but you're only giving to this select few.
Like what I feel about Patreon is it's basically you're just doing someone a solid. You just really like Philip DeFranco. The benefits are not worth the thing,
Right.
But it's just you're
no,
I like this shit.
But
because at a certain point you are paying for entertainment.
Yeah.
Because if I think about,
Because you're enabling them to keep making the thing.
if I think about Philip DeFranco as a
that was just an example.
no, I know, but that's a good one to go through, right?
Yeah.
Because he's pretty universally you can watch Philip DeFranco,
and that Patreon is booming. That's
But you literally have to think about it as Philip DeFranco. I mean, I don't watch him. I don't subscribe to him. But Philip DeFranco's given me 5 hours of entertainment over the last year.
If you were to give Philip DeFranco $5 or something, cool. But the other
how
thing,
much would I pay for 5 hours of a movie? You're like, well, $20. And you're like, well, Philip DeFranco's not a movie, so maybe quarter that. And you're like, well, it's still $5 that I should fucking give to Philip DeFranco, $1 an hour?
The other thing you have to take into account, though,
I watch hours of YouTube every day that I don't pay for at all.
Which I'm going to say,
And I run ad block.
you're on the run for it. I think it makes sense.
I don't do ad block.
But you don't
I'm the
watch
Robin
Philip
Hood.
DeFranco regularly. Let's say you've watched 5 hours over the course of a year or something like that, or 20 hours over the course of a year, whatever. I watch Philip DeFranco daily.
Right.
So he's in my, say, top 5 of people that I would pay to watch their content.
Right.
Which means if I'm paying for the amount that I should pay because I watch him on a daily basis, you're covered. You don't have to pay for Philip DeFranco. You can see him whenever you feel like it.
Your paying is offsetting his because you feel
exactly.
you're more invested in
and
what
then
you're getting.
take
He's
into
more
account,
casual about.
say, Casey Neistat. I watch some
you're
Casey
you're
Neistat.
a DeFrankite.
Right. I watch some
word.
Casey Neistat videos. I don't watch all of them by any standard.
Oh, okay. Here, this is interesting. So, how do you feel about this? So,
His thing that he was trying to do?
well, so Philip DeFranco, right? His Patreon says how many Patreons he has,
but
he
not
doesn't.
how
but
much.
not
Christ.
how much money he's getting either per video or per month.
They talked
Yeah.
about that in the H3 podcast, and he said it doesn't matter. But it seems like they kept asking him, so they were kind of like, "Why don't you tell people how much money you've made monthly?"
Because I don't know. To me, well,
You'd stop at
Sometimes
that
when
point,
people
you know?
see that number, they're like,
You-
how many more do you need?
Yeah,
then?
you would stop giving.
Does H-
because
Because
it's
Does-
that happens
does
with
H3
subscribers on YouTube.
have
Where
a-
I don't think so. The only other page H3 or Patreon I've ever looked at is this model that I follow on Instagram.
Ooh,
And,
you're
like-
trying to give her money?
No, I just
She had a
Serious,
Venmo
like-
account.
Oh,
It's
there's
like-
perks, Riker.
no, I'm not gonna. The perks are not good.
it's here's that maker I follow, right? So here's
Oh
Jimmy
yeah,
Durasa.
I know who you're talking
1,600 Patreons, almost $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
And Patreon takes, I think, 30% or something on top of that. It's pretty fat.
about. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay, yeah.
But then you can kind of figure out. I mean, to me, it doesn't even let you skimp on things. Me knowing that he makes $3,000 a month, it's like, well, I know for his shop and everything, it probably takes him way more than that to operate, right? Granted, he has side projects and stuff like that he's making money on.
But just
But
to
it almost
maintain a
helps me
space
know,
like that.
You're like, you know what, Jimmy? You're putting out some good shit. I'll add to that.
But then again, Philip DeFranco's could say 300,000, and then you'd be or some shitload number that, and then you'd be wait a second. I'm
But
not
that's where
doing this.
I think you have to go really kind of democracy about that.
Yeah.
Where people need to have a better breakdown of like if Philip DeFranco says that he has a team of 5 people, you know, and so it's like, oh well,
It's a
Philip
lot more than
DeFranco's
that.
getting
Yeah, he's like 30.
right.
maybe.
Okay, so but 30 people, right? So if it's like 30 people, and he's like, hey, like for the 30 people and me and our facility and operating costs, we need 20 grand a month, you know?
So that's
Then it's like, to me, then you're like giving people the what am I supporting?
But
where
the-
I think that can get
yeah.
kind of messed up, where I want to support the personality, but if there's more to that fucking with it, then I might be a little less inclined to participate.
But the other side to it, though, is if you take, say, Game of Thrones versus another TV show into account, if Game of Thrones was saying, hey, we make this amount of money for our show versus, say, some other, like, way less popular show, would people say, oh, Game of Thrones is making X amount of money, I'm not going to pay for it, I'm just going to start torrenting it because
well, I mean,
don't-
you kind of
they're
look at
making enough already, in my
Just
opinion.
go to where.
I mean, that's how the
get it
BBC that's how the
easier.
BBC was with like Top Gear. Is since BBC was like a government run everything, like the per episode budget of Top Gear was a known thing, because that's what people's like in the UK, that's what their like yearly TV tax goes to, is funding
Right.
those things. So then you like, you know exactly where your money's going, whether
Right.
you use it or not, you know. But then you're like, well, like I don't know,
It's-
like
I'm sure to crash a lot of
Well,
shit.
I
somebody
like
needs it, you know.
the Patreon things that I subscribe to are like, for me, it's really helpful for
Do you
them to
actually
break down.
support people on Patreon?
Yeah, there's
Because I don't have anyone I actually.
okay.
I would,
I'm a
I would,
fucking freeloader.
I would probably never support anyone. Patreon.
So I support a few people on Patreon. One's like $15 a month, which is okay.
What's
but
her
it's-
What's her name, dude?
yeah, holy shit.
What's her name?
Is it
15 a
Cam
month?
Show
It's just some
Daily,
girl on
dude?
Tinder I found. She had a
Right.
her Venmo account.
Yeah, on
and she
fr-
just
on
said,
freecams.com.
send me $5, see what happens. So I 15 a month.
$15
It's like
a month?
it's okay. So it's
Holy
a
shit,
show.
dude.
It's called 2 Minutes to Late Night, right? And it's just like a metal based.
They count down.
Nice.
They count down the last 2 minutes and they say, "Okay, it's midnight."
No, it's just like a hard rock and metal themed.
The stripper.
It's a late night show,
I
and
mean, if you
even
like that shit, then that's it.
well, so that's the thing is I like it, and then like the other one I used to.
$15 though.
I know. We'll probably
that's
dump it
2
down a little bit.
packets of cigarettes.
Ah, shit, 2 packs a month.
That's almost.
That's not that bad.
That's like a big old. That's a big popsicle, dude. You can buy a whole one.
15-bit popsicles.
I don't know, man.
So that's what it comes down to. Like Sipes is paying $15 a month for that show. If Nick was into that show, but not that into it, like he caught an episode every like few months or something, like they're covered because Sipes is paying $15 because he really likes
Right.
what they're doing
Yeah.
and like.
Well,
We
but
could
it's
all watch it
also
for
that
free now.
it's easier for me to spend that $15 versus like $5. That they spell out like what their production costs are. Like it's a full like late night show, and so to me when I see the cost breakdown, I was like, oh, okay. Well, it's easier for me to spend $15 at this point versus like if it was just like say it was just like me doing a solo podcast. Like, does that really cost anyone $15 a month? That cost me $15 a month in like hosting fees and like
Well, it depends on what you value
what I
your
mean?
time at, right?
yeah.
You know.
But like
But if
I
we're doing
value
this,
that.
if we're doing this for fun,
Yeah.
But even then, you have to value it against what you could be doing with this time.
Well, yeah, and I'm looking at like who is doing this stuff full time. You know, like I have an easier time supporting a Patreon or a Patreon. I'm a Patreon. Okay,
You are
I
a
have easier time. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have an easier time supporting a Patreon that I know like okay, this is this person's job, and they really rely on like the feedback, the community, and like especially if the subscribing to the Patreon allows me access to some sort of forum or like a Twitch channel where I can like interact with this community, then that adds more value to me because then it's like I'm getting more of my money's worth, and this creator is getting more out of their audience. You know what I mean? If I'm really invested in that. On the other hand, like if I know that something is like a really low production and someone just wants it's kind of a money grab, then it's like, you know, I might give you $1 a month if I really find value in it, but I know that your production costs aren't very high. You know what I mean? Or like you have a full-time job and you're just doing this kind of on the side. It's a different, like I taken all of those things into consideration.
Now, the YouTube like adpocalypse, right, was kind of a big deal for a lot of people having to go to Patreon or kind of alternative ways of like actually funding. I think the issue is, right, obviously you run into a time thing where people are putting full-time effort into YouTube stuff, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think that's kind of flawed. Like, I couldn't really imagine going full-time YouTube ever, even if you were popular and doing good. Once again, I get that like a video editing and stuff like and shooting and all that takes a long time, depending on what your channel is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of those guys, it's like you're capturing game streams and
there's
you're
a lot
good.
of people in like the bridge of that though, that theory,
like,
because then the people above it, those are the full-time people, like there you go, but then there's a lot of people in between.
So just on the train of thought, right, there's some of that, but I think that the adpocalypse, so like I technically got hit with the adpocalypse because because of the rule change, I can't monetize videos anymore because now I need 1,000 subs or some like crazy amount of watch hours every month to be able to monetize stuff, which like even personally like cut my motivation to make some random like motorcycle stuff, right? Because before, like I have a video, it's like removing the center console of a 99 Mazda Miata with like 15,000 views on it, and I have like $5, you know, I have like $40 total ad revenue sitting in my YouTube thing from when I started being a partner, you know? Like that was just kind of a fun thing to check, right? Like what's $40 to me? But it's like, no, like to me it was more like the watch time and stuff like that was like cool, right?
Someone's finding value in that specific thing.
Right, and the comments of like, this was super helpful, thank you. But
thanks.
I felt like the adpocalypse highlighted that YouTube and Google are not very good at targeting ads, where I would have no problem sitting on my phone or whatever through the 5 seconds till you can skip. There's a decent amount of those like Dollar Shave Club ads were like a great example of that when those like first came out, where like there's some of those I watched like most of the way through, or some like
you just kept watching because they're hilarious.
A couple like indie movie trailers were like, wow, this is probably better than the video I was trying to get to, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think
sometimes I watched the whole thing, or Ty Lopez back in the day.
Yeah,
you watched like 20 minutes of that
dude.
shit.
You're like, what? So to me, that highlighted that they need a better way of targeting ads to the individual videos, you know? Like I can't tell you how many times I've seen the Cox Giga Blast, you know?
Oh yeah.
Or like here's the dinosaur, or here's my like I fucking hate Cox. I have them. I hate them so much, you know?
And you're like, there's no way.
Down to the fact that 90% of the people that are paying for ads, nobody gives a fucking shit about.
I think that's some of it. Where like, right? Like if Google knows my search shit. Like if they
stock us better, people.
If
know what I like?
If they put a cinematic 2018 GTI ad in front of my like other car videos I was watching,
buy one.
I'd be like, fuck me. Should I get an old one or should I get a fucking new one? I can do it.
Right.
But you watch the ad.
Well, see,
and then, you know, if it's just a dude, it's like classic cinematic kind of stuff where it's a fucking dude in a flannel who looks like me. And he's just like, bah, bah, and it's some like shots from the outside, like he's going through.
I'm
your
like, face in
I'm like, not even that.
From
you
your
know?
webcam, they took your face and motion tracked to that guy's face.
Holy shit! But if their marketing team knows the audience, and they show some dude that looks kind of like us leaving from some kind of cool bar.
Right, shotgun and a beer,
and they get in and they're like,
Yeezys.
dude, this is nice, and you're like, and like a pretty sweet deal actually, and you're like, oh, dope, and then you go, brah, brah, you like rip around a little bit. I would sit there and be like, oh fuck, I should buy a new car, you know?
Why don't they just
better?
But instead, it's these random ass. Like you have my
I'm
data.
50 years old
like,
and I'm in the best shape of my
give
life.
Me
like,
ads of stuff I should do.
You'll get a shitty ad with like
if
the
I'm
Amazon
watching Jimmy
ads here.
DiResta stuff, Like, look, the fact that, like, I've been looking at, like, new soldering irons.
Yeah, go
Or, like, other shit
put up
like
some
that.
shit.
If they're, like,
Yeah.
the new Spyderco Spring 2018 line, I'm like, ooh, I should go look at more knives, you know? Like,
Yeah.
they know what I want.
The Amazon ads
Amazon.
work. The YouTube, like, in the sidebar,
Yeah.
the Amazon ads, and it's like...
Fucking
like,
Amazon.
You've been looking at these and you're like, holy
Yeah.
shit.
Those are based off your cookies.
Their
All those are.
emails,
Yeah.
the email.
Yeah.
Have you guys gotten the emails where they're like, "Hey,
The Adidas store?
you were just looking at this thing and then you didn't buy it. You sure you don't want to buy it?" And
That's
you're
the
like,
Adidas
"Fuck,
store.
Yeah, I really do want to
Yeah,
buy
well,
it."
and those
That one
ones.
annoys the hell out of me.
And there's a couple of those where they like throw in like a 10% off
fuck did
coupon,
you know
and
that?
you're like, oh, that was it.
Dude,
You
my
got me.
mom takes advantage of those.
You should.
If she's thinking about buying something, what she'll
the
do
cart
is
and
she's
then
got like
leaves.
3 raspberry pis, and she'll just like run searches on all of them for like the same sort of thing, and then eventually like coupons will start coming up, and she'll use the coupon. It'll take her like 15 minutes to do it. Too.
Our sponsor is Honey. Please down the Honey.
No, not honey.
Honey
What?
actually sounds badass.
Honey does actually. Amy uses honey.
Straight
Honey
up.
is-
I
Honey
heard an
does
ad
not
for Honey.
sponsor us. We're demonetized.
Honey does, it does the same
another
thing.
good
I
one
thought it
is
was
it's just a lot
for
easier.
anyone who hasn't used Camel.
What?
It is a Chrome plugin that you can search the price history of Amazon. It'll give you like a graph
Oh,
of
I've
that,
seen those,
so you
yeah.
can see when it like spikes up and if you're at a high point compared to what it was, and then you're like, oh, it might go down, and they'll alert you if it's below a threshold that you set.
Yeah.
like
I've heard of
a
that.
buy sell order for crypto.
I've heard of that.
thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
what
yeah,
I
have
want
a
to
few of
bring
those
up,
set.
and it's kind of in relation to what we're
They
talking
haven't triggered it
about
once.
right now.
Yeah.
But so obviously, with all the shit of like, oh, if I'm on the internet, they're tracking everything I do, and there's these ads popping up for things that are based off things that I was tracking or
Right.
things I was talking about, like all that stuff. I totally understand the concept of like, I don't, that's my private life and stuff. But what I will say is, I don't give a fucking shit. If I'm looking up a pair of shoes, which is 90% of what I do on the internet,
Right.
and then I get a thing that pops up that says, hey, here's this brand new pair of shoes you haven't heard about before.
Well,
Like, that's fucking dope.
So that's part of
That is
the
cool.
that's part of the Internet 101 class that no one took before the internet happened. Of if the product is free, the price. If the service is free, the price is your data.
Yeah.
You're
You
the
know?
product.
You're the product.
That
And
was-
that's where I
yeah.
think a lot of people, like fundamentally, like I get that. And that's like a thing in my mind where it's like, okay, how much have I ever paid towards Google for Gmail and Google Drive and Google Photos
Yeah.
that now holds
That have helped you
unlimited
out
compressed
so much,
photos?
yeah.
Yeah.
You know? Like I haven't paid $1 of real money to that. So if the cost of that is that they have some of my ad
Sell some
data,
shit.
okay, like functionally I'm okay with that.
But that's the thing.
I've-
And
though.
right
always
now,
been
and right
fine.
now we have the tools to play cat and mouse with that.
Right.
Where like on YouTube on my desktop, where I consume most of my YouTube, 95% of the channels I watch, like that ad block is like cranked down. Like I have some channels whitelisted for that because I want to give them ad money and I don't mind. But for just general YouTube browsing, like my ad shit's like on lockdown, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Right.
YouTube's only getting me on the phone as far as ads, and that's just because I haven't rooted my phone and run an ad blocker on it.
Right.
You know?
I just like Safari.
Well, that's the thing.
So
is-
right now there are games to like you can play
Right,
that game,
yeah.
but eventually it's going to get to the point where I don't know. You have like Facebook, Cambridge Analytica data breaches where it's like now they potentially have some shit, you know, which
think
becomes a little
That's
trickier.
the thing, though. Like, as far as what I have on the internet, apart from like my credit card info, which is on specific stuff, which obviously I don't want getting out because I like to keep my money.
But that's been proven to be secure to a point, right? Like,
yeah. But like taking into account all the things that I'm searching, everything I'm doing on my computer, my phone, my whatever. Everything that I'm searching, for the most part, unless it's just like a sudden thought that popped in my head, that I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I wonder about that, is something I'm interested in. If that's tailoring the ads, because regardless, I'm going to get fucking ads. No matter what, I'm going to get fucking
It
ads.
might as well be
if
like
that's tailoring to something that I'm
lucrative
kind
to
of
you.
interested in,
Yeah.
like, I do not have a problem with it.
But I think there's a lot of work to
I
go
don't
in the algorithms and analytics, linking together things that you are already into and things that you are potentially also going to be into.
Right.
Because we've all seen those ones where it's like related searches or products, and you're like, that is nowhere close to what I'm actually looking for.
Or
you
it's
know?
for something you just bought. And then for the next
Yeah.
week, you see ads for
And
shit
you're
that
like,
you just
homie,
bought. You're
I
like,
already bought it.
like
Yeah.
right now, I'm
Like
seeing a bunch of.
GCU ads.
Yeah.
Fuck GCUs. I already went there. Stop posting them. I don't want them.
I will see ASU ads until the day I die.
Not going there again.
I don't feel that strongly, GCU, but I also don't like your emails. I'm not. I'll come to you if I want my master's. I
Yeah,
don't,
give me a free
If
hot
I see you
dog
on
or some
YouTube one
shit.
more time, I swear to God.
do you get GCU?
I get a
Yeah.
ton of GCU. I've
All
gotten
the
a ton of
time.
I've
GCU.
never gotten one.
I already
ads.
went there. I'm done.
I've started getting GCU ads when I started hanging out with you guys.
By
By the way, all of them went to GCU. I went to ASU. It wasn't until I started hanging out with you guys that I started getting GCU ads. What?
Are you sure about that, dude?
I
Are you
think
just
so.
are you just trying to are you just not trying to paint the valley purple, dude? That's what the
Trying to
billboards
paint
say.
the
Paint
valley
Valley
like
purple.
the red, like a big douche.
That's gross.
I don't know the visuals.
But yeah, so I don't know what's gonna happen with YouTube, honestly, because like Google loses a ridiculous amount of money every month on YouTube
Oh, really?
between like storage and hosting and stuff. Like they do not.
Oh, dude,
make,
yeah,
they do
I'm
not
sure.
make that up and add
Because they have their
revenue.
own servers.
Oh
right?
yeah, no, but it's a full loss leader because
Yeah.
I mean they're allegedly doing what our alleged company that we work for is doing, where it's like
But it's
where it's the like take the hit for a decade and then you
And
run
then
the
make
world.
the-
Because
yeah.
at this point, right, like no one can come up with a YouTube competitor.
It's true.
No
It's,
one can.
yeah,
Like
no.
Vimeo
okay.
didn't do
Like
it. So that
okay,
was
anyone
it.
who mentions Vimeo is like
nah, fuck
you're-
Vimeo.
They're not understanding the community
I don't even
aspect
know
of
what
YouTube.
Vimeo is for.
But
Vimeo
think
is
It's
about
for
it.
like filmmakers,
But
but it didn't work.
Vimeo's for if someone tells you you can't upload it to YouTube and send your
Yeah.
project link.
But
yeah.
think
Or
about
that's
it,
like
if-
what Flickr is for
If
Imager.
somebody
you know?
were to
Yeah.
say, "Hey, there's this company. They made a competitor for YouTube," my response is gonna be, fuck you." Like
Yeah, why would
until
you
that
even
gets
go?
huge,
it would have to
like, I'm
maybe
not gonna
be
be
Apple.
maybe, but
Maybe
look at-
Apple.
Or
do
like
Look at fucking
freaking
Bing,
or
for
like
example.
IBM or or Microsoft like
Microsoft already tried. Like with Bing, they were like,
Well,
Google,
no,
we're
no,
taking
no,
you
but
on.
Bing was
Yeah,
Bing was
hell
never a
nah.
YouTube competitor. Bing was Google
No,
competitor.
that's what I
and
mean.
it is better at searching the whole internet than Google.
But the real thing is, who gives a fuck? Because everybody's already using Google. Like it may be better, but trying to get everyone who uses Google to move over to Bing, especially
Or
with
like
the
DuckDuckGo
fucking
or-
backlash that Bing got, as far as like people just hating on it, like it's next to impossible.
After the podcast, ask me what Bing is for.
Oh, we
porn.
don't know what that means, but okay.
That's all of Bing's search traffic
Dude,
is porn.
Really?
Is it really?
Yeah.
Incognito.
all
that
of
was
it.
a joke.
No,
I thought that
no.
was like DuckDuckGo.
No, that's like
Is
part
it
of
really?
that's like part of their thing. Because
DuckDuckGo?
Google filtered a lot of
DuckDuckGo
explicit
as
content.
Oh, that's funny.
And
Except for the big ones.
And so most of the Bing users, it's like porn searches.
Was that where Incognito came from? Was that a backlash to Bing?
No.
Start using Bing now.
They just can't
No,
even make
'cause-
a reason for incognito besides porn or the panic button.
Well, no. So
Is there really a panic button?
So you can use
plug in.
incognito if you're trying to do plane flights and stuff, or anything that involves cookies, because you'll get cheaper plane flights. You'll get cheaper prices because they're not tracking your search history. And if they're tracking your search history on
and if you're
flights,
looking
they
at
know
that-
that like, hey, you're trying to get that flight to Minneapolis. Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna spend the money, and then they just keep jacking it up. But if you,
You
go
can-
in on an incognito browser,
Oh,
it'll be significantly
You can
less.
test this almost any day of the week
Do you
too.
know- do you know
can
what I
like
use
just
as
search
a
what the
example,
search is
right?
and then go to incognito mode. And
Do you know what I use Incognito for? That is probably stupid and is very ego based. But
Porn.
Porn.
Do you Google yourself?
No. Anytime I don't remember how to spell a word and it won't be autocorrected, I always use incognito. For some reason.
You don't just let it
because
fill
I
in?
don't want it to be like listed as like, oh, I don't know how to spell this word. or
So
something.
I'll use incognito on any terminal where I don't want the like browsing history to get incorporated into stuff. It's like on that work laptop I have, right? I'll do like all the Craigslist stuff on like incognito because I don't want me to be like searching through like Google Drive stuff for work
And have it
and then
pop
there's
up
this like
with-
pop up where it's like trying to counteract my car's Craigslist. And it's like, no, it's not the cars I'm searching for. Like these are not the droids you're looking for, you know? Something like that.
Dude, there needs to be a
Classic,
not
dude.
cars filter on Craigslist. God damn it.
Why? What else do you use Craigslist
Just
for?
no
dude?
cars.
Well, I was searching for
Vinyl?
earlier. We were searching for like audio interfaces, like audio interface, and it's just like new Chevy Silverado. Fuck
No, do you know
off.
how to
it's
do
like
that?
Ferrari D.
No, yeah. How do you filter that out?
Okay, Here's a lesson, kids.
New Chevy Silverado.
I've been
Buckle
using
up for
Craigslist
some
years,
learning.
and I don't know.
We're gonna
He's gonna learn you.
learn.
That is, while
What are
you're
we
looking that
doing?
up, that is the one thing that pisses me off about whenever it's like giving you ads for shit. Like I don't know about you guys, but have you guys ever had ads for like ChristianMingle.com and you're like, fuck,
No.
I don't give a shit about that. I don't want to be on
my
Christian
ads.
Mingle.
My ads are actually really good.
Are they?
Like
All of them?
they are in my head. My identity must be stolen because they are nailing it all the
Dude,
time.
Dude, my ads are always
90%
really
shoes.
bad,
So-
which makes me think like
I never think about them.
What makes me like my ads
So
are always really
I'm just
bad,
gonna,
which makes me think like.
just as an
internet
example,
security's
I'm
good.
gonna do cars because
Yeah.
that's something I've been doing, right?
But I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of cars.
No, yeah. So I'll show you this, right? So if you wanted to do
That's cool.
whatever, right? So some of these are spammy.
I want to
So-
look for living like stereo speakers. How do I search for speakers without
No,
getting
so
a bunch
right.
of car
So
shit?
so here's how you do this, right? So in this case, this GTI ad has like it's from a dealer, right? And they're trying to say like, oh, $700 a month, like whatever. So
Right.
you can go minus $, and then
Oh, that's how you
so
do that?
since they all have that in the post, I can't do that. But you could say minus DSG. And so that's any of those that mislabeled as manual when it's the automatic,
Mm-hmm.
it'll get rid of that. So another thing that you could do is, so this like Nissan is in there, right? This is a Nissan Pulsar GTIR, right? So it shares like a similar name. If I was just looking for that, I go GTI minus VW. And so that got rid of any ones with VW in it. Then you could go minus Golf, and it'll keep removing. And in that case, if you're like, why are those Mazda speeds in there?
Oh, look,
minus
Adrian's Mazda.
Oh damn, boy.
So-
oh, you're left with that badass Datsun one.
Yeah. So you can like pretty smartly search Craigslist like that
I
via
didn't know
things.
that.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so like
I've never thought
Google-
that Craigslist was a good design.
Google works like that too.
Every time I've ever been there, I've been like, update this website, you fucking idiots, and then I always leave.
Same thing like
Speaking of which,
motorcycles.
if you want to make a good website, go to squarespace.com.
Hell yeah. If you want to make a
Someone did,
website that's
like,
not
motorcycles.
fucking stupid like
I
Craigslist.
have to go pee. I'll be back.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
So you could do like motorcycles minus Honda minus Yamaha.
Mine is shitty.
So like now I'm only looking at 600s that are from Suzuki or
Katanas, dude? You want a katana?
no, I don't. But yeah, so you can. So
Oh, yeah.
Craigslist has like all of the normal stuff built into it.
Huh, yeah, I didn't know.
Same thing. You can do that with like straight up Google searches.
Mm-hmm.
So
I feel like I feel too hack the world with that.
The
So
Google
I'm just
stuff
gonna-
I know. It's just dude with Craigslist. Like most of the stuff I look for is just like, it's like speakers, or like audio.
so like if you do
Case.
GTI VW,
Yeah, porn on Craigslist.
it gives you that,
big pee-pee.
right? So but if you were gonna go GTI minus VW, because you're like, no, I'm not looking for that. I like want other stuff. Oh, yep, the gas research and development training consulting. That's what I was looking for. So
Were you
it's pretty
looking back
powerful.
on that?
What?
It just
I
works
don't
the same
know. I don't
way.
know anything about any of this.
GTI. Yeah, it's smart Google searching.
Yeah, I'll probably never use that, honestly.
Oh god.
Oh, you should. It'll save you a lot of time in life.
Okay.
Minus
Yeah.
car.
Maybe I will then. Fine.
Well,
Oh fuck, it works.
I think we might be
Outworn are welcome.
getting
Point.
towards the end of our podcast stuff because I'm pretty hungry at this point.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
And should go get Taco Bell,
Oh, I haven't eaten, dude.
right? Should I go get Taco Bell?
cheesy.
do we
or
want
or
to?
gay tacos?
Like collectively?
Yeah.
I was just
yes,
gonna
please.
do,
That would be great.
I was just
That'd be
gonna
awesome.
do ramen.
Oh,
That's,
come on.
that's what I thought in my mind. I said I'm just gonna do ramen.
You're a
like-
rich boy.
Real ramen or like
I
raw-
bought like 100 one time and just.
They
fully
have a
loaded.
whole cabinet that's just ramen.
It's almost out. I eat a shit.
like Costco top ramen.
You got to learn how to cook real food, my guy.
Yeah, you need to get.
I do. I just.
That's a lot of sodium in
Die
your
from
life.
sodium.
Yeah, just recategorize.
We need
I don't do that
to
every
we need
day.
to figure out our mic setup a little bit better because every time you bumped your mic, you moved the camera over. So your
Yeah.
camera.
Oh,
setup
that's
is that right?
awesome.
Yeah, you're a little.
Colin,
bit
we were talking about finishing the podcast.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I'm down. Let's go.
So thank you for watching episode 3 of the Demonetized podcast. This will now go up a week after it's been recorded. So if the world has stopped or something, that's what's up.
But you'll
So-
of course be listening to this now.
Yeah, and when is it now?
God,
Hey, Merry Christmas.
Through the magic
So,
of editing.
Thanks for watching. Feel free to reach out to us on either
Hear
the
ye,
comments or
hear
social
ye.
media, iTunes. If you're just listening to the audio via iTunes, check out the YouTube because we have video of this whole thing, which is fun.
I look at the comments every morning when I wake up.
Every
There's
morning.
none, but
Not true. I
So
don't do
thanks
that.
for listening. This is Nick. Goodbye.
my name is Riker. Sipes.